Welcome back to the tour. This is Kit here, and we are going to be going on a tour of Mheg today. I'm starting out in the northern part of Lakeland because I honestly forgot about this area while I was doing the Lakeland tour, and that one is my fault. I apologize for that. But if we look on the map here, over here, we'll see the imperative. Here's the outpost there, and then here's the little hot springs area that I'd pointed out. But right north of the hot springs is where we are now, which is the walkway to Mheg. And I'm just going to hop on my mount now, so that way we don't have to worry about that. Get one that doesn't cover up the entire screen, though. Better. And then we're just going to make our way into the Fairy Kingdom. Now, the Kingdom of Mheg did start as the Kingdom... I had the name of it, and now my brain is just completely shutting down on the original name of it. Oh, it was originally the Kingdom of Verbert, which think kind of Ishgard style, where it's more Gothic style architecture, high castles, and those types of styles, where it's more high arches, grandiose design, that just kind of got buried and neglected during the flood, which then ended up being taken over by the Fae, who lived with the people at that time, and just kind of made it their own area, so that the Kingdom of Verbert then became the Kingdom of Rainbows, or Mheg in Fae. And starting right off, we have this pathway that leads right from where we were, right into the pixie settlement of you'd think I would remember it, considering how often I come here. Lita Laron. That's the name of it. This is essentially the main city for where the Pixies reside. And if you end up needing to work on the Pixie tribal quest, the actual place for that is over here. It's this nice little house with the pretty blue arch. You would talk to Uani, and you would actually be working with Tyrbeck and Ezel II here to be working the Devouring Nightmares. But we have the main Aetheryte here. It's a very lovely arch for it. This little area that looks like it used to be for outdoor dining for the residents of the area, and as well as a little stables here that's kind of built into the hillside. That's mostly used for herding and caring for sheep. Just because the Pixies really love the wool. It's super soft and fluffy. And they make a point to tell you about that a lot when you do that Beast Tribe quest. And they do have a pathway, even though most of them fly, because there are residents of the kingdom that aren't airborne. Then, over in this area, it may just look like an underwater submerged part of the kingdom from prior. But this is actually the entrance to the Fum, I want to say their name is. I'm always just off on going fully underwater. But since we're past Stormblood, yeah, my brain keeps wanting to put Bringer there instead because of how much we talk about Shadowbringers. You are able to do the ability to breathe underwater. You still have that blessing from the water god from Stormblood. And you're able to actually take a look at this entire settlement and kind of see how it got buried above ground more. And this entire area would surround the entire, the giant castle that you saw with the wings on it, which now at this time is the home of the Fairy King Titania. But let me get back above water so that way bearings can be rebound. Or regained, more rather. And then we have our normal, lovely, infinite light sky with still no sun to be found anywhere. That's probably it right there, but we'll never know. So there we have Lita Laron over there. And then this little house over here is actually where we first run into Oriange in the storyline. Because when he came here, he basically decided, okay, I'm going to go and live amongst the Fae and learn what magic and abilities I can from them to try to make things go smoother. And if you know Oriange, you know he is a nerd, which makes sense as to why it looks like a hot mess with books exploded all over the place. But if we continue taking this pathway, you can see how the cobblestones kind of fade out and they turn just back into grass, kind of showing the nature reclaiming it. We end up going up this way. We do have to do a bit of a foot travel just because for obvious reasons we can't fly up into this section when we first get here. You can get a really good view from up here of the castle itself, as well as kind of like the overall layout of Lita Laran, because you can see the aetheryte off in the distance. You can see the little bumps showing the top of the house. And then we come back down here to where the mobs are and all the death. And you can still see these beautiful, like, stalagmites of energy that are being produced. My personal running theory is that it's from the phase magic itself, mixing with the ambient ether. But if we fly in here, we will find the cave people of the Numu, which live in Plana L. And when I think of these guys, literally my first thought is just Piglet from, like, Winnie the Pooh. Just these little short guys. They absolutely love humans. They're basically like the go-to gimp for people. If someone came up and asked them to do it, they would do it. As long as it wasn't like, hey, go and commit murder for me. They still have standards, and they're not going to be evil about it. There is an evil group, but that's mostly a group that just hates humans. And these kinds of fae, you more kind of picture them as you would, kind of like sages or like regular mages would. They're able to use normal magic. They don't really have like fairy wings and fly around and things like that. They just use their abilities to kind of, you know, do things their way. And there is an aetheryte in Plana L, so that makes it easier once you get here, so you don't have to like travel across from Lita Laran to here. And then directly to the east of Plana L is the ruins of a former Verbert settlement, which is called Wolkendorf, which is the home of the enchanted Amuro, like Seto here, who is like the biggest Amuro this side of the Chocobo. And these Amuros are special because they have actually learned the ability to talk. Like, not that one there. Of course, the first one I walk up to that isn't Seto. And these guys you actually talk with, and you can help them out. For obvious reasons, I'm not accepting quests from them, just because this is a tour. I'm not going to be doing work while showing you around. And because Amuros aren't really known for talking, most of the people that had them as companions ended up leaving them behind, with the exception, to my knowledge, of Seto, where his guy literally just straight up died. So he came here to get away from the cruelties of man. And in this little area, we have little Porksies as mobs, because this is the opening for the settlement for essentially the Numu that are the ones that hate people. For obvious reasons, there isn't an aetheryte here, because this isn't really a place that you go to often. You go here for like a handful of missions, and that's really about it. Then we fly down here. Got some really sick flying music for this, thanks to Titan. And the pathways, like you would see clear roads in like Yulemoor and Lakeland, there really isn't any clear set paths in Mheg, with the exception of like the remnants of the path that leads to the actual castle, as well as like the occasional ones for like the larger quote-unquote settlements like Lita Laran itself. But you go up this pathway, and then you end up at the Fairy King's castle. This used to be the castle itself for Verbert royalty, But with the flood and everyone kind of going and dying and Faye's taking over, it became the castle of Leelgaia, which is the home of Titania. And from up here, you do have some pukas you need to worry about hunching you on occasion. But this is probably one of the best places in Mheg to get a good view of the area. Just because you can get a really good view of Lido Laran from here. You can start to see the underwater and submerged buildings there. You can see the house that Oriange would call like his house and like his study. If you came over to this side, you'd be able to get a pretty good view of... You won't really be able to see the village for the Numu because they live in the mountain. But you are able to see the like entry points for it, as well as you can see Vidolkin over there in the distance. And I'm really wishing I was allowed to go into the castle, but the castle itself has a trial where you have to fight the corrupted Fairy King. So for obvious reasons, we're not really allowed to go in there, because otherwise it'll just start up that fight. And then here we have the giant lake where the Undine live. And that's really about all that there is for Mheg itself. Like, it's a very laid out area, but there really isn't as much in terms of landmarks as there is like Yulmore or Lakeland. Which makes sense, just because they're not really going to, like, you wouldn't really expect Fae to clump up in certain areas. They would more move around where they want to go. But, alright. This has been your tour of Mheg. Next up, we're going to be heading over to the region of Amarang to show you guys the area over there. Hopefully I'll see you then. If not, hopefully you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.